So if you're a Palantir investor, you care deeply about what's going on in the world geopolitically. And the reason you care about this is because when Russia invaded Ukraine, it only proved the case that Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, has been saying for a very long time, which is that the peaceful idealism we have about the way the world works is not happening. This is a more deglobalized society. The dollar and the yuan are competing to be the world's reserve currency. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening right now that is causing a less globalized world and having more tensions arise. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, it kind of proved what Karp has been saying, and the fact that Palantir software has been used, and it has been proven by many, many different reports that it's giving Ukraine a fighting chance and in fact helping them beat back Mother Russia without having nuclear weapons, is showing you that their software plays a pivotal role when things go south. China and Taiwan. Elon Musk just did an interview. People in the Palantir community have been theorizing for a long time that China is likely going to invade Taiwan, and we're going to react to this clip by Elon in a second, where a guy who has a lot of his business in China, who has been known to not speak up as critically about China as he is about other people. And I don't even blame him, because when you're trying to save the world from climate change, you're trying to sell electric vehicles, and hey, let me just not say something about the government and not piss them off right now, because, I want my business to be okay. Even he has come out yesterday and said that it seems inevitable that China is going to invade Taiwan. Let's take a look at his reasoning for why he thinks that. Because Russia-Ukraine is something we didn't expect to actually happen, and the fact that it did happen might lead some credence to feeling that we shouldn't take it so lightly when we talk about China and Taiwan.
Are you concerned at all about the growing belligerence between China and the U.S.?
I think that should be a concern for everyone.
I think you're right. I think it is shared by many people who run large organizations and smaller ones. Do you think, for example, China will make a move to take control of Taiwan?
The official policy of China is that Taiwan should be integrated. Mm-hmm. One does not need to read between the lines. One can simply read the lines.
Do you think?
So I think there's some inevitable.
So when Elon says that, right, it's not, you don't have to read between the lines. You can read the lines. I mean, this sounds very Karpian to me as well, right? When Alex Karp talks about why they don't work in Russia and China, it's like because they are not the best actors, right? We don't need to read between the lines. Investors can say whatever they want. We know obviously what's going on. So when Elon says, look, the official policy of China is that Taiwan is part of China and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, we should not take them as if they're saying it's a joke.
Ability to the situation.
That would not be good for Tesla, conceivably, or for any company in the world, frankly.
Yes, for any company in the world. I think almost no one realizes that the Chinese economy and the rest of the global economy are like conjoined twins. It would be like trying to separate conjoined twins. That's the severity of the situation, and it's actually worse for a lot of other companies than it is for Tesla. I mean, I'm not sure where you're going to get an iPhone, for example. Apple's recently started doing some sort of small amount of production in India, but it's tiny compared to.
It's tiny. Not to mention an advanced semiconductor chip if they take over Taiwan Semi.
Correct.
I mean, you design your own chips, but you manufacture them at Taiwan Semi too, right?
We do some. We use Samsung and TSMC.
Right. But you seem to think it's likely to happen.
I'm simply saying that is their policy, and I think you should take their word seriously. They mean it.
Are you concerned?
So right there, I mean, like it's hard to not look at that and then start thinking, what are the macro political implications for this? Taiwan's president gave an interview to 60 Minutes, and essentially 60 Minutes asked him what he thinks about the China situation. And he said, this is not a question of if, this is a question of when. As I've gotten older, I've started becoming less idealistic and started looking to the practical reality of the world. And with what's going on in the South China Sea, the tensions that are arising, it does seem kind of inevitable that this would happen. The only reason I can imagine for China to not actually invade Taiwan, and for Elon Musk and Alex Karp to be incorrect about this over the next 5-6 years, even a decade, is what Elon said: the global economy and the Chinese economy are conjoined twins. And as a result of that, China would be theoretically shooting themselves in the foot, because if every company is going to leave China, including Apple, the most valuable company in the world, just like they did with Russia when Russia invaded Ukraine, then that would be gutting your economy. Now, that makes sense. It's like, why would I invade Taiwan, right? This small little thing that I really don't have to do. My economy is growing. My economy's fine. I'm still one of the top 3 global powers in the world. I don't need to do this to heighten tensions just to be able to, increase my further marginal forms of hegemony. The counter argument to that, though, is that because the global economy and the Chinese economy are conjoined twins, China has all the leverage in the world. They're like, hey, if you pull out of us and you stop making iPhones here, there's no Apple anymore. This nice little $3 trillion valuation, yeah, that goes to nothing. Because if people aren't buying iPhones because you can't make the iPhones, and you're not going to quickly be able to change everything and bring it to India. In fact, in 2001, when Apple introduced the newest version of the iMac, the reason they have such a mutual relationship with China is because Steve Jobs told Tim Cook to go to China and figure out how to make 100 million of these devices, because Steve Jobs was a visionary enough to know that the demand during the holiday season would be so great that if Apple could not fulfill that demand, Apple was not going to be able to prove that they are a leader in the computer space. And so Tim Cook, who is an operator, went to China, built relationships with Foxconn, their biggest manufacturer, and they've had a global supply chain there for a very long time that has been effective. The problem is now China wants to take over Taiwan. And so China's argument to every one of these companies, not just Apple, is like, you're not going to do shit. You're not going to leave. Stop virtue signaling. Like, we're going to do what we want, and you guys care about profits. You guys don't care about Taiwan more than you care about profits. So do what you want. It's easy to leave Russia when, Russia's maybe like 2 million subscribers for Netflix. Like, all right, we can deal with less than 2 million subscribers if that has to get cut, but, we'll keep our brand and we'll care about democracy and all this stuff. When it comes down to real profits, it's a much more harder thing to do. And so the beautiful thing about Palantir is that they don't work in Russia, China. They don't necessarily have those implications, but Palantir works with a lot of companies that have business in China, and they try to make them more optimized. If those supply chains flip overnight, those companies are in a really bad space, which brings in the bull argument for Palantir. If China invades Taiwan, and again, this is not me as an individual, investor theorizing about this. This is me looking at the richest man, the smartest man in the world, Elon Musk. Smart is subjective, but I think he's one of the smartest people in the world. Definitely one of the most successful in terms of building companies, who has a lot of business in China, saying that this is the policy and it seems pretty inevitable. Then the argument has to be, when this does happen, how does Palantir play a role as a Palantir investor? And I think there's 2 ways. Number 1, to give Taiwan the software, just like they've given Ukraine the software, in order to be able to fight back against China, because China is going to put up a hell of a fight, and China's army is much more sophisticated, one could argue, than the Russian economy, or the Russian army, especially because China's advancements in AI and technology. I mean, they're building their own version of Palantir, their own version of OpenAI, ChatGPT, etc. They are technologically advanced. And so you need a technology that is even superior to whatever copycat is going on in China to be able to give Taiwan a fighting chance against China when China comes in, because China's going to come in and they're going to come in hard. And if you have any form of the software advantage because you don't have nuclear weapons, because Taiwan doesn't have nukes, that would be beneficial for Taiwan. That's the first way that Palantir is going to benefit from this dramatically, and the world and democracy is going to benefit from this if Palantir is able to supply the software to Taiwan. The second way is when all these companies flip overnight. Their supply chains, their logistics, their infrastructure, their demand, their ability to actually fulfill all that demand, it goes to either 0 or negative overnight. You're going to need software that is able to enhance your business, get rid of the bureaucracy, make it more efficient and more effective within a flip of a switch in order to actually stay afloat as a business, i.e. Karp's statement about bad times are good for Palantir. The reason they're good for Palantir is because Palantir's software is battle tested and it's meant to solve those problems when things go bad. I think those are 2 very basic arguments that anyone can understand as a Palantir shareholder for why, if China invaded Taiwan, Palantir would play a crucial role. I'm not even talking about the financial implications this would mean for Palantir, right? What it means for the stock price, what it means for them as a defense contractor, what it means for them as a supplier of software. I'm excluding all of that. I'm just talking about what it means for them as a company, because all of that comes as a byproduct of them actually solving the hardest problems in the world, which is why I like investing in Palantir, because they are solving real problems. And every case study I've seen about every company and government that uses them shows they're solving real problems. The NHS is about to give them a contract for $550 million to solve the biggest problem in the UK, which is how do we make sure and guarantee that everyone gets healthcare without having an inefficient bureaucratic system for 67 million souls. And so, when you're investing in a company like that, you can't help but feel excited for what they can do to solve problems, but also realize that when things get really bad in a deglobalized society, which is all the evidence we're seeing for how the world is going, then their software is going to be primed to helping companies affected by that, but also helping the country that is going to be invaded inevitably by a superpower that does not respect their sovereignty, their independence, or their ability to claim that they have their own nation, their own culture, and their own world. And so I think if you're a Palantir investor, it is very important to take this seriously. I hope, and I'm saying this with the utmost respect, I hope that this does not happen. I do not want to see this happen because this is not going to be good for anyone from an economic perspective if this happens. Like when companies, businesses flip overnight because everything's conjoined with China, as Elon said, and that you have to make a choice of if you're going to stay or leave because China's invading, that's going to be really bad for the global economy. That's going to be a catastrophic event. If that does happen, which I'm taking seriously because a lot of smart people are saying it and because you're looking at the writing on the wall, my argument is how should you think about that as a Palantir investor? And I think Palantir will be one of the most important software companies in the world if that happens, because there is no other company that can actually solve the multiplicity of problems I outlined that would happen as a result of China invading Taiwan. So those are my thoughts. And it seems like Elon Musk agrees that because it's inevitable, something's going to happen. The question is what companies are going to be able to thrive when that does happen and help solve those problems when they do happen. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about China invading Taiwan and the implications that has on Palantir, and also your thoughts on what Elon said, given he has significant business in China and how he feels that if the writing's on the wall, then it might just end up happening. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Please subscribe to dailypalantir.com/subscribe for a free Palantir daily newsletter. I'll see you guys on the next one.